Welcome to the Filmcast review of The Killer, the new David Fincher film streaming right now on Netflix. I'm going to read the plot summary of this movie from IMDb, and I do want to acknowledge that this plot summary does give away the premise of the movie, but it doesn't. Some of the stuff doesn't happen until 20, 30 minutes in, but it's the premise
Something
of the
goes
movie.
bad for a hitman in a movie? Yeah.
So here is what happens in The Killer, according to IMDb. Quote, after a fateful near miss, an assassin battles his employers and himself on an international manhunt he insists isn't personal.
Wow, that's a very specific summary.
Yeah, that is the summary for The Killer. Now, Jeff Kanata, you had a question before we started. This is like arguably the most important topic when it comes to this film.
Indeed.
Is when you look at the poster for The Killer, you said, what's going on with the logo of this movie? It looks like some letters are missing, right? And
that makes me sound real dumb, but yeah, I kind of said it like that.
No, but that's first of all, that was my initial reaction too. Okay, I wasn't trying to say you don't know what's going
on. What?
What?
That
and then I said,
word isn't all there.
And then I said, what kind of moron would ask a question like that? And then Jeff said, this kind of moron, the kind that would give you a hard time about the Killer poster right before we're about to begin the review. And it kind of went on like that for another 15 minutes. But, okay, so I was very confused as well by what's going on in this poster. But essentially, the Killer, if you look at the poster, what is happening is the eye character is a guy, and the killer has shot the guy, and the eye has fallen over on itself.
Oh, now I get it. Okay.
Oh, it looked like underscore.
Yeah. It looked like a Morse code or something like that. But it's
a little too cute graphic design.
The eye
That's
is a guy.
too
and
cute.
Too
cute.
David Fincher is... I don't know that he came up with this idea, but he is meticulously involved with every aspect of his film's marketing. And he either came up with it or he approved it. And I just love the idea of David Fincher, the guy who has directed some of the most violent sequences ever known to man, was like, let's make the eye a little guy that falls over, huh?
There's that story about James Cameron just adding the $ to Aliens. And everyone's like, oh, I get that. This one, the eye's a little guy, everybody.
It's
more
confusing.
What are you talking about?
The eye, the line part of the eye is bisected.
Yes.
So it looks to me, I'm just glancing at the poster, I'm not studying it as Dave evidently has.
Still halves of a guy.
It looked to me like K __ period LLER.
I like how you tried to like dig at me for actually knowing what this
the
poster
fact
is
that
trying
Dave
to do.
cares about accuracy and facts.
I will admit it's a little bit confusing. I think a lot of people have the same reaction. So
it's unfortunate because honestly, I think that's a more the fact that there is already a movie called The Killer that we all love,
a great movie. Yeah.
I think it would be more interesting if this movie was called K __
dot.
Yeah.
K __ dot lur.
Yes. That old chestnut.
It's simpler that way.
I insist that from now on, whenever we refer to the title, we refer to it as K _ dot lur.
That's not going to happen.
That's
no.
Just like we say Max the one to watch for HBO.
I think that's fair.
You can do that, Dave. You can keep doing that.
Yeah. All right, sounds good. Okay, Devindra Hardwar, what were your thoughts on David Fincher's The Killer?
I freaking love this movie, and I was surprised because I think the word coming out, was it Venice or wherever it premiered, was kind of like lukewarm. People weren't like super into this movie, but I love a good Fincher joint where he is playing with style. This is a beautifully stylish movie. This is a wonderfully brutal movie too, and a cynical one in the ways that we know him. I love a good assassin movie is a thing too. Like I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because hitmen live out lives that we cannot, outside the confines of civilization, right? They don't have to hold to our rules. They have a simple job. They have a code. They have an ethos, and they just do it. I don't know. I find that fascinating as a character thing as well. So I had a lot of fun with this movie. I think it's incredibly well made. There are shots and sequences I'm still thinking about. Fassbender is perfectly chilling and precise in this, and this is the movie that proved that David Fincher knows that he can pick up the camera from a tripod and hold it, move it around the camera while a sequence is happening. There was a sequence in this movie where the camera's moving, guys. It's amazing. It's like
Actually
handheld.
yeah, okay. So, true fact. Devindra is referring to the fact that Fincher is notoriously very controlled about everything. He has he
Rarely
demands
moves
dozens
the
of
camera.
takes.
Yeah.
I would not say he rarely moves the camera, but all of his camera movements are very controlled.
Yes.
They're usually like a pan, a tilt, a dolly,
Mhm.
or steady cam. Like it's very rarely just it's very rarely like running around with the camera.
Shake
Yeah. Okay, my understanding, Devindra, which you're going to be very disappointed to learn.
Don't fucking
is
ruin this
that-
for me, Dave.
Yep, is that the handheld stuff was done on a dolly, and the camera shake was inserted after that.
How was it?
So-
Is it like digital? It actually it
Yeah,
has.
yeah, it's
this-
like a
okay,
digital-
yes, this has to be him, right? It has to be the facsimile of chaos,
Yes.
but it's controlled, and
That's right,
that is this
that's right.
entire movie. That is this movie. So as a reflection of a guy who is notoriously a perfectionist. Okay, yeah, I take that. I guess he did not. He learned nothing. Actually, he's a failure. He's an absolute failure, just like Fassbender's killer.
I know exactly what's in your top. It's the one where you're following Fassbender's character, right? And
No,
it's like,
dude, there was
there's
a
another
fight scene, which I think is one of the best fight scenes we've gotten this year, where the camera's like Paul Greengrass camera, where it's just like, wow, they're moving all over the place. And I think it's a knockdown, drag out fight. Fassbender, I guess, was after the Soderbergh movie. He also had a great in-room fight scene that was pretty brutal.
This is the second movie, very minor spoiler, but this is the second movie that Michael Fassbender plays an assassin who gets thrown into a television.
Yeah, that's his thing. That's his calling card.
Like somebody has a new list for
seriously.
your app.
Letterbox.
Why is his calling card a
Exactly.
broken TV? I don't get it, guys.
Indeed, I agree.
I adore this movie. I think it's a really fun watch, but it's not like a big bombastic movie. It is a slow, methodical thing. It reminds me a lot of The American, which is the movie starring George Clooney that not many people talk about. I think that was Anton Corbijn. But I love a good, slow, methodical movie about the underworld like this, and I think this is just so well done. This is Fincher, just like, I think in some ways, like, certainly after Mank. I feel like we saw Mank, right? We talked about Mank, and
I think we reviewed Mank.
We
I have some
reviewed
residual
Mank.
memory of Mank.
and
Yes, we
Mank
did.
is a movie where I don't even remember talking about Mank. And maybe it was because it was in the middle of the COVID and everything, and all I remember it had like a really weird audio. They were trying to do 1940s audio style and stuff in that. And I was like, this is not what I want from Fincher. The Killer is what I want from Fincher. It is wonderfully stylish and fun. Yeah.
Jeff Canado, your thoughts on David Fincher's The Killer?
Well, Dave, I guess you could say my thoughts on David Fincher's K__.lur is best summed up in the form of a limerick. The Fincher style's always so slick, but somehow feels realistic. In this pulse-pounding thriller, he's created a killer that's more like a grounded John Wick.
All right.
I feel like I came out of this movie and I went, this movie is John Wick if it was plausible.
Sure. Well, it's
Plausible
Hitman.
John Wick.
David Fincher sat down and played Hitman. I was like, I get it. I get all the pieces, all the characters, all the movements. Yeah.
It has a lot of the elements of John Wick that we all love. It's got like a sort of underworld of killers that all sort of know each other, and there's like a code and there's a fiction. There's a world building in this that's a little more subtle than John Wick, but still there. It's got revenge is the primary motivator. It's got like do not wrong the bad man because the bad man will take everyone down with them. It's got all those John Wick elements, but it does it in this really cool, plausible way that still has some over the top awesome stuff. But man, I completely agree with Devindra. I loved this movie. You said it so well, Devindra. This is what I want from David Fincher, dripping with style. Every brutal sumptuous and gorgeous. I mean, there's a half an hour section at the beginning of this movie that is so rad and just so patient and so it's like the way it's shot, the way the light comes through the windows, it's just like so much detail to everything.
Fassbender doing yoga, and we're all just like, yes. Look at that.
Take your time,
really,
yoga Fassbender.
Yes.
yeah, the way that we're in the head of this guy, and also, I think we'll talk more about this in spoilers, but also the fact that he ain't perfect.
Mhm.
Frequently shows how this guy who just thinks very highly of himself is kind of a screw up a number of times, right? And I love that about this movie. It's this pompous, conceited, like, in my voiceover, I'm gonna tell you exactly how to do everything. What? What's happening? What?
This is a story of David Fincher making Mank for Netflix, right? Like, oh, that was a miss.
Yeah.
That's a miss.
This movie is a blast. I loved every second of it. I didn't want it to end. I love the soundtrack, as I said in our cold open. I am a huge Smiths fan. The fact that this movie is like covered in the Smiths and Portishead is
and
like
Portishead, yeah,
so awesome. These are like some of my favorite songs.
Also showing up in Murder at the End of the World, by the way. Like Portishead and the Smiths are, I guess a great vibe together. Yeah,
Portishead Smith-assance.
Mm.
But like the way it bums me out that most people will see this, on a sound bar or on a, a bad audio or things really low. And like, I watch most things with my kids asleep, with the sound low and subtitles on. This I watched in my home theater with awesome sound. I think the sound design of this movie is phenomenal and well worth seeing it in a great audio environment.
If you're watching at home, you can put on headphones. Like sometimes it is worth just putting on a good pair of headphones if you don't have like good speakers. Like it makes a huge difference.
If you don't care about talking to your loved ones while watching
shut everything out in your life as the killer does.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of chapterized, this movie, and I loved that.
Yeah.
I love the methodology, you kind of dipping into this person several years into their journey of being the killer and seeing how they've constructed their life and constructed their methodology of how to execute people is really cool. There's so many cool ideas. There's like awesome awesome execution, like Hitman, the video game style. How would you do this? Oh, that's a smart way to do this. I think this might make my top 10 of the year. I really
I can't stop thinking about it. Yeah.
Yeah. I loved it.
I have a lot to say about this movie, but I think we're going to do it in spoilers. I will start by saying I had a great time with this film. It was a lot of fun, and I was baffled by the reviews coming out of Venice because the first 20 minutes of this film is Michael Fassbender doing a monologue, like a internal
classic
monologue,
Fincher monologue too. Like,
classic Fincher monologue. And I'm like, oh, this is gonna be the whole movie? Like this now I understand why people were a little lukewarm on this. Like, this is gonna be the whole movie. It's just like reflections of a killer, and like that's the whole movie. Nope. There's like tons of action. There's chase sequences. There's like all this stuff going on in this movie, and just as a propulsive form of entertainment, I think it's just really well done. And love Fincher style, the meticulousness. Every element of David Fincher's movies is meticulous. The camera movements, as we discussed earlier, the set dressing, the lighting, the color grading. Like, you can tell, obviously, that kind of work goes into every single movie, but you can tell that David Fincher is somebody who has extremely strong opinions about each one of those things, and that all comes through really well in the movie. I think Michael Fassbender does a great job as well. The question that I have about this movie is
he role model? Yeah.
No, what is the movie about? And I think there are a lot of different theories I see out there, but we can't really talk about them unless we're in spoilers. So I will say I agree with a lot of what you guys have said. I think it's really well done, really entertaining. I'm less sure that it's like, I'll give an example, like Panic Room. I love that movie. I watch it all the time. Every couple of years I'll do a Panic Room viewing because I just think it's really well put together.
Dave watches Panic Room in his Panic Room.
That's right. I watch Panic Room to relax. It's like a nice, it's like a nice chill movie. But that is not a movie that I would say is like about anything meaningful. It's just like a really well done.
I mean, he's a thriller. He's a good genre guy, and like I think he likes that exercise. That's
exactly. So I think a lot of people have been saying this movie's about a bunch of different things, and let's talk more about that in spoilers. But like, that's what it certainly references a bunch of different things. But I don't know that it's really about those things. So that's what I've been struggling with. So all that said,
And
let's
you're saying
get
that's a detriment for you.
No, not necessarily. Like if it was just a really entertaining Panic Room style genre thriller, I'd be like, great, that's fun. I'm gonna watch this every couple of years. But maybe it's more than that, and so that's what I've been kind of like dealing with. And let's talk about it. So let's get to spoilers for The Killer starting right now. So the things that I've seen the most well, actually, I want to make a comment about something that Devindra said, which was like
this is his
movie,
Mank, or him.
well, this movie giving us an ostensible view into the lives of hitmen. Like,
Sure.
there's not much evidence that hitmen of the type that Michael Fassbender portrayed actually exist in the real world.
I mean,
like,
hey, Dave,
he is like a.
I don't care.
Like,
yeah, I don't. This is
fine,
this
that's
is
fine.
fiction.
Yeah.
I want to be entertained.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Devindra. I'm just fascinated by this idea because we've seen
Mhm.
depictions of hitmen all the time in movies, right?
Yeah,
But like the idea that they're hitmen who are like suave and rich and like they like are really cool and like they have tons of
You know what else doesn't exist in real life? Ethan Hunt. Does it matter? No.
All fair. It's just a topic that I am personally interested in because we see so many hitmen on the screen. I'm like,
you're like, what's up with the real hitmen? What are their lives like?
Do these people actually exist? And like, honestly, you can't really study them because the really like true best hitmen, you don't even know
ghosts,
they're
ghosts. Or the ones
they
we
don't
know about are like people in Coen Brothers movies, right? It's the guys from Fargo or something.
Exactly.
Like,
exactly. Those are the ones that are like typically the ones that
hitman is some
right?
idiot that is willing to do anything for money and
right.
Yeah.
100% accurate. Okay. Anyway, so what is this movie about? A lot of people have said it's about kind of the grind of the gig economy and how
sure,
taking gigs left and right eventually grinds you down until you're just
until you lose your humanity.
I'm going after my employee. Like, I'm going after my employer.
That's a take.
Which I'm like,
that's a take.
But I do think that the movie is very clear about how our atomized society enables him to do the things that he does. Specifically, think about his use of Amazon lockers, his use of DoorDash, his use of
McDonald's
like all
for
these
cheap protein, like
McDonald's for cheap protein. Right, exactly. It's like all these things. It's like no one knows who each other are.
I can hide in plain sight because I dress like a German tourist.
We're not living in a community. We're not living in a community anymore.
We're disconnected,
everyone,
man.
No one knows each other. Sometimes I feel like people just crash into each other just to feel something, And
sometimes he wants to crash into people with bullets to feel
that's
something.
Right. I don't know that the movie's about that, but I think that's certainly a part of it.
I think that's a part of it.
It's like the milieu in which the movie takes place.
I mean, in the same way that Fight Club was about like dudes in the 90s, kind of just like dealing with being a modern guy, right? Like you have to know about IKEA furniture. And what does that say about you? Have you lost your manliness or something? I feel like it is sort of a commentary on society in that vein,
Well, I would argue that Fight Club is much more overtly that than this movie is overtly anything. But yes.
I liked Max Reed's take over at his Substack, readmax.substack.com, or I'm sorry, maxread.substack.com. Are you guys familiar with the concept of the Sigma male? You guys know what that is?
I feel like I'm going to
I want to know what it is?
Yeah.
So I believe the Sigma male is a concept of a male that is in juxtaposition to the alpha male. Because basically there's a bunch of
douchebags,
incel type dudes online who like want to figure out how to better themselves as men, and they're like, oh, for a long time, like the alpha male, like I want to be the alpha male. Well, eventually they realized that is extremely off-putting to women to be like the alpha male type,
and anyone with a sense of anything,
or women or men in general, like humanity in general,
any sensible person.
A new concept emerged called the Sigma male. And I'll just read very briefly here. He says, Sigma male is a foundational concept to what I think of as the loser internet, the cross-platform network of self-loathing reactionary forums and influencers whose main activity is in inculcating huge amounts of self-pity in insecure young men. But yeah, Sigma males are defined as the outsiders who don't play the social game and manage to win at it anyhow. The alphas hate Sigmas because they are the only men who don't accept or at least acknowledge their social dominance. Everyone else is vaguely confused by them. At the party, it's the guy who stops by to say hello to a few friends, accompanied by a tier 1 girl that no one has ever seen before. Sigmas often like women, but also tend to be contemptuous of them, end quote. Anyway, that's a definition of the Sigma. It's kind of this guy who like thinks he's super cool, but is still like, can be quite reprehensible, as in the case of the killer. Anyway, I just thought that was an interesting lens on which to view the movie.
Oh, okay.
But
I think this movie is pretty critical of its main character.
Yes,
I,
yes, absolutely.
I think this movie is holding up its main character as a pompous ass who thinks he has it all figured out and is incompetent on numerous occasions.
He would be a nightmare to work with in an office, right?
Well, also
because he's the kind of guy. He's the kind of guy that like messes up the presentation and blames everyone else,
right,
for the problem. Like he messed up his contract, and the honorable thing to do is to accept the consequences of that. Which, in the case of the movie, would be like go into hiding, like flee and go into hiding. Which like his boss was willing to accept, right? But instead he's like, no, I'm gonna literally murder everyone, who's involved.
They messed up his girl. Instigate it. Like,
but he was not.
This is
he
a
was
response to something.
He was the target. He was the target of that.
He was the target. But if he had not gone home, would they have hurt? Like, they never explicitly said, like, would they have hurt his girlfriend? Like, I don't know if that's true. The only way I'm watching this is like this, knowing this is a David Fincher movie, seeing those opening shots and how meticulously framed they are, especially the overhead shots of him with the sniper rifle looking over at that building. And I was thinking as I was watching, like, that is just so beautiful. Like how we are seeing every room. And then afterwards, I sent you guys this link. Like that whole thing is like a composite shot where they like lit and set up each room individually, and what we're actually seeing is the feed of him meticulously controlling everything basically in that presentation.
That opening 30 minutes I just think is perfect. I loved that the fact that we're just sort of dropped in on this. We don't know what's going on. We don't know who his target is or why. We're just seeing the sort of mundane grunt work that is required of this kind of pseudo glamorous job. And here he is, doing something that is mind-numbingly boring, but also we're sort of like trying to suss out exactly what he wants out of it.
He's into it. Like he is into it. He's not like dreading his life. He's like, nope, this is my job and I'm going to be very good at it. And I could not help but think like, this is David Fincher making movies. This is every story we've heard about David Fincher, like demanding 50 plus takes or something until it's the right thing. And it almost feels like this is a movie about Fincher reckoning with the fact that perfectionism is kind of hurtful to him. Right. Like it's not always helpful. But when the studio comes at you and you can't make movies for a while,
I don't read this as a Fincher analogy. Like a lot of people have said, like David Fincher is the killer, and I don't read it that way. Simply because the killer is a terrible person, but B, like just really incompetent.
I mean, we don't know. He failed one shot.
He fails over and over again.
Yeah. Let's talk about how he failed. Okay. First of all, he spends 20 to 30 minutes. The movie is really interesting because there is a big gulf between everything he's saying in the internal monologue and then what he's actually doing. At many points, what he says is completely diametrically opposed to what he does.
And oftentimes, one of the things I love most about the movie is his internal monologue, his pompous internal, like, his TED talk that you're getting about how to be the best killer in the world is often interrupted by him fucking up.
By him messing up the literal exact thing he's talking about. So we get a 20 to 30 minute spiel about all these things I do to be perfect, and like the reason I'm so good at this is because I don't give a fuck. He's like, this is why I'm so awesome. And then of course he like messes up his first contract that we see royally.
What other ways did he mess up in the beginning?
I'm getting to that. That's the first thing he did, right? And then later on, he goes to confront his boss at that New York office, right? And he's like, okay, I'm going to shoot nails into this guy's chest. And then I'm going to
15 minutes to live. He's going to give me all the information.
I'm going to demand information from this guy after I shoot nails. And so he's like, okay. And then he's like, he shoots the nails and he's like, a guy, 180 pounds, 5'9". This guy's going to live for 15 minutes. Bloop, dies.
He's like, shit.
Shit happens, man. Shit happens.
It's not shit happens. The movie is showing you this pompous ass is not as good as he thinks he is.
Absolutely.
I mean,
and then later on, right after that scene, he takes the woman
Mhm.
who like is like, I'll tell you the information, but please, like, don't make my body disappear, okay? The right thing to do in that case is to make that woman disappear, right? And he says, forbid empathy, stick to the plan, don't improvise. But then he ends up giving the woman what she wants, which is he leaves her body behind. And so, and I could point to like 3 or 4 more examples of what I just said, which is like
Is that
he
him fucking
says
up? I don't know.
it's him.
It's him not doing what the monologue
not
says.
doing
It's
the
him
thing that is
portraying,
yeah.
portraying a version of himself that he does not live up to. Like, and that's ultimately what I think the big part of the movie.
I don't know how that does not make it an interesting Fincher parallel.
There's another.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay,
I mean
that's
that may be that's a separate
And
point.
you're skirting over the crazy shit he did before. Is like he walks in, his house is trashed, Portishead is blaring, right? That is Portishead playing. He figures out what's happening. They messed up his girl. What does he do? He slowly, like, he figures out, spends like the day just looking at the cabs, finds the cab company, goes through their like 1980s computer to figure out that thing. Like, that stuff is,
I'm not saying I can't believe we're arguing about this. I'm not saying he has no competence whatsoever.
Well, no, but you keep saying he's such a fuck up, like as a character.
Yeah, well,
I'm saying,
but he fucks up at multiple critical moments.
I think the movie
in the movie
it shows him as this highly effective killer, certainly. But I think the movie's position is holding up his it's drawing a juxtaposition between his view of himself and the reality of what he actually does. He thinks he's way better than he is.
Exactly.
He is good in some respects, but he thinks he's way better than he is. And I think my takeaway from the whole film is that the movie is making fun of that, right? It is really
it's funny when the boss dies. When the boss dies, like, oh yeah, you got 15 minutes. It's a big oops, haha moment for the audience when he fucks up and makes that.
And it shows it constantly is undermining his perceived omnipotence, right? He is this like, I am the alpha, if you want to use those terms, or I am the uber assassin. I've done everything that makes me into this, the supreme tool of destruction. And yet the movie's constantly showing like, this guy kind of sucks, like, I love that about it. Like, I loved that it's taking the piss out of him. Yes, he accomplishes his goal, and by the end he has wiped out all the danger, and he's sitting poolside by his girl. But it is kind of showing you like the people. What I took from it is the people that are most vocal about how great they are often lying.
Not that
great. You mean people have a inflated sense of ego, especially a lot of people like this? That is also what I'm saying is like that feels to me like the Fincher parallel, almost like him reckoning with his own this is a known thing in Hollywood. That his this guy is such a perfectionist and is a massive yeller, is almost this persona.
Hey, I'm not,
and he's not perfect.
I think that reading is there. Sure.
I'm not okay. I'll walk back how opposed I was to that.
Yeah, you were just like, that is a dumb idea. So.
I said the reason it doesn't resonate with me is because of this, but you've kind of convinced me to that side. But Jeff and I, Jeff, we're completely simpatico on like how the movie is like.
I mean, the guy's clearly messing up. Yes, too. That's part of the fun.
That's what I love about it. I love how I don't remember seeing a movie that is sort of ironic like that. I love the irony of his, he thinks he's the absolute shit, and he's shit. Like
it's fun to watch in a movie. It would be completely unbearable to deal with this person in real life. I think, but let's talk about the ending. I think some people have been let down a little bit by how it ends. To me, it was very logical to me that he would murder all these underworld people, and then the one person whose death would spark an international manhunt, he would spare that person. But I don't know if you guys had any reaction to like how that all played out. It struck me as like a very logical conclusion, but I think people were like, "Oh, he's been killing people left and right. Of course, he would kill the final guy." But it made sense to me.
I think that part, like he is at a certain part, if this felt like revenge, and he gets to this guy, he's like, well, what is the aftermath here? If I kill this guy, what happens? And it's nothing really good for him, right? The math doesn't
Right.
really work out for him.
The Jeff
So-
Bezos character.
Mhm.
Yeah.
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 Arliss Howard, love him.
It was so good. All that stuff
Mhm.
is so good. I don't want us to skip over the Tilda Swinton sequence
Yes.
though, because
Yes.
that is some of my favorite. That is felt so John Wick, you
Mhm.
know, with like these other assassins that also, you know,
Right.
live in this this parallel universe of assassin people, you know, and like that whole sequence of her knowing she's dead and then still trying to get back at him, you know, so rad. She's
One
like,
last
can you help
one
him,
last
lady?
try. Yeah.
So good. But like all the eating of the food and tasting things for the last time, and him just
and she calls him out on his bullshit too.
Mhm.
Like,
Yes.
she
Mhm.
says the quote unquote right move for an assassin in this situation. Certainly, you don't sit down across from the person,
Right.
You know, they don't see it coming. That's the way you.
There's
that's
all the
way
camera
you would
work, and like people
Right.
see him
But-
there. Yeah.
Exactly,
good.
exactly right.
Yeah.
So she calls him. She's like, "No, you're not just here to kill me. You're here for a reason."
yeah.
And I think, Jeff, in addition to just self-deception, it's also about his weakness
Mhm.
as a person.
Yeah.
It's about like
Mhm.
he's weak in he has certain vulnerabilities.
Right.
And one is like, you know, this woman in the office who he didn't spare her, but he didn't spare anyone other than the billionaire, but like he gave her what she wanted, and
Yeah.
he let Tilda Swinton finish her meal, you know, and like all these things that like show that he's not following his thing step by
Mhm.
step.
This sociopath does have humanity. You see? Yeah.
Not one he verbally advocates for, but certainly one
think-
that is there.
I think Devindra was making the analogy that Fincher's saying, look,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do have a little heart.
I'm also
Look at me.
I care about humans.
Don't you love me?
I care about
I
humans.
will still murder you,
Yeah.
but just like under circumstances that are slightly more favorable for you, basically, right? Like that's
Mhm.
what
Yeah.
he's saying.
We haven't talked about the fight scene, by the way, and the whole
So
lead up to
rad.
that whole thing.
The dog
is,
and
the
that's
dog
so
feeding the
good.
dog. It's a whole like him scoping out the scenario. This is me at the beginning of every Hitman level, just basically like tracing
Yeah.
the perimeter of the thing. I was like, okay, yeah, I could do this. Yeah, just take out that dog and get in there. I don't know he fucked up so badly to like totally miss this giant dude right behind him, but you know, yeah.
That's the thing. Is
Yeah,
like
he
I
fucks
think
it
he's
up.
literally saying like stick to the plan, and then literally he gets interrupted
Yeah.
mid monologue by the guy slamming into him.
So good.
That's the fun part, though. That's funny. Yeah,
It's
an-
funny, but it also
Yeah.
shows
It's funny,
that
but I think
he's
yes,
not,
yes.
you know.
exactly. It shows he's
but
not
who
that
won
good
that
at
fight?
this.
Like a skinny Michael Fassbender during this
Oh, yeah.
wrestler dude is just like that is a fun knockdown drag out fight. I was like, oh man, you're doomed, you know. And
I don't know
Yeah.
if even Michael Fassbender's character in the movie would say he's particularly proud of how
Yes.
that fight went.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna put that out there.
I mean,
but
you're proud of who's left standing, right? So
yeah, he's proud of the outcome,
Mhm.
not necessarily the process. Amazing fight sequence.
Amazing.
Whenever I watch a fight sequence like that, I always think to myself, how did they reset this if they
Mhm,
needed to do like multiple takes? You know, like there's stuff like shattering, breaking
Yeah.
every 2 seconds, and it's really impressive. So
so
yeah.
good.
So
I
good.
gotta. I was thinking, I was like, I want to rewatch that fight scene, and then I was thinking, I want to rewatch like the whole, like honestly, the whole beginning, and then it gets to the point where like I just want to rewatch this movie over and over again, and like live in the weird vibes of it because it's so much fun.
Yeah. And I loved all the, I mentioned this in the pre-spoiler stuff, but I loved all the audio design of we're in his earphones, out of his earphones,
Mhm.
in his earphones, out of his earphones.
Yeah.
As he's listening to the music. I thought that was rad.
Yeah, particularly during the opening kill when he's listening to the Smith. It's a really because you're cutting between outside of his earphones and in the earphones, and you're getting like glimpses of the song.
Yeah. And
So
it's
much fun.
really
it
amazing.
is so thoroughly modern. Like I love this very much, you know, obviously he's in a WeWork at the beginning and
Well, it's a dead WeWork too. It's not like an
Yeah.
actively running WeWork. It is the detritus of that whole organization. you
Totally.
know?
Yeah. Before WeWork filed for bankruptcy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
And I love the stuff with you know, him musing on the storage wars. Guys are gonna open up his storage containers after he's dead, you know, and they're gonna find like what the hell was going on in here. It's so good.
I have to say this: when it comes to David Fincher's The Killer, Michael Fassbender's character is storage unit goals.
Mhm.
Okay,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Meticulous,
that thing is
meticulous
so-
organization. Yeah.
You know, that thing is so well organized.
Well, that's how you know it's fiction, right? There's no storage unit in the world that looks like that.
It's like the most organized storage unit
My
in the world.
basement doesn't look like that. It's right behind me.
Right.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's incredible. You know, like he's got the bin with all the license plates, a freaking Pelican container with all the guns and the passports, and it's like, and apparently he has like 5 or 6 of these. It's like, wow, you're maintaining 5 or 6 of these. Are they all at this level? Is my question.
Is like,
you know,
this is like my wife's porn. You know, she's like container store everywhere. Container store.
Yeah. Who's restocking these things? Like how does the actual mechanisms of this work? We didn't talk about, by the way, after he messes up the early killing. By the way, love that shot. Just love the look of like him missing it and the woman getting shot instead. But then it's like quick, like, oh, I messed up. Let's wrap up this whole thing.
Right.
Pack it up. And a really fun chase who
incredible.
And throw not even chase because no one's chasing after him, but like he's throwing objects into random garbage bins.
He is running from the police because like they are looking for someone, so he is like always ahead of them just a little bit. But yeah, fun sequence.
Really, really great. I noticed like most of the kills in the movie happen in slow motion. That was an interesting kind of way of basically anytime he shoots someone, it always cuts to like a slow motion close up of it. I've seen this movie twice at this point, so like I've noticed
the slow mo of the whatever sort of dominatrix lady at the beginning, like getting shot back, so rad.
So
brutal.
Again, I think Fincher is playing a lot of games. Like that is a very Assassin's Creed thing to do, of like the slow mo before the chief kill or something. So
that's why he saw Assassin's Creed with Michael Fassbender.
That's true.
Like,
it's true. I need that man. I need Fassy.
That guy. He's gonna be my next assassin. So, any other thoughts on The Killer, folks?
I loved it, man. I just every second of this movie, I did not want it to end. I was loving everything that happens. I just was so into it.
I mean, he has been, what was it, after Dragon Tattoo? I forget if Dragon Tattoo actually did well for him, but I do feel like
it was not a huge success.
Not a huge success. He did Gone Girl, and Gone Girl
was huge.
Gone Girl
was huge.
But then it was straight on the Netflix stuff, right? It was Mindhunter, and also like A House of Cards before that. But I do feel like I miss this Fassbender, like a guy who was just like giving us really meticulously crafted genre.
Fincher,
stuff.
I think you mean
Fincher.
to say, right?
But really meticulously crafted genre stuff. And I hope to see more of this. Like this is a fun movie for him.
It reminds me of, I talked to you guys about the Sylvester Stallone documentary Sly on Netflix last week on the podcast, and how at one point Sylvester Stallone realized, hey, I should stop trying to be a comedian. I should stop trying to be, funny or dramatic.
No more movies with dogs.
There's one thing I'm good at, and I should just lean into that thing. I am curious if like David Fincher has realized that with this movie or not. Maybe he's going to keep trying to do other things.
He's been trying to spin up projects. So like Mank was a thing that I think was just like on the back burner for him for a while, but he was doing bestsellers. Like what was before, it was Gone Girl, it was Dragon Tattoo, right? And The Social Network was ostensibly based on the work that was going to go into the book around that too. Like he was basing his projects around things he thought would be hits, whereas this is more of like a one-off thing. But yeah, I don't know. I hope he finds. I don't know.
When I look at Panic Room, when I look at Girl with Dragon Tattoo, when I look at The Killer, when I look at Gone Girl, like these are all basically, largely speaking, they're all crime thrillers. They're all kind of like different, very
Zodiac.
different.
But those are different phases of his career. Like Panic Room is early 2000s, right? Like before The Social Network, bbefore he had like Oscar cred. So what is Oscar cred Finchy doing?
And then Benjamin Button would be like in that era as well. But that's what I'm saying is I hope. You're right. They're all from different eras, but this is the one through line that he's consistently done really well, and I do agree. I hope that he continues to make movies like this.
I love it, and check out Love, Death, and Robots if you miss like more of this Fincher vibe. Like he has done some sequences there, and I love a lot of those shorts. Yeah.
All right. Well, at the end of the day, it's really impressive that David Fincher made a movie. Thank you so much for watching this video of the Filmcast. Check out these other videos that we have available, and be sure to hit like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon to get other videos from us in the future.
You can also go to thefilmcast.com to catch all of our audio podcast versions of all of our episodes.
And support this podcast at patreon.com/filmpodcast, where you can sign up for ad-free episodes and exclusive After Darks.
Thanks so much to everyone who makes the Filmcast possible.